So are you like thinking about launching a business? Maybe you're even, aiming for that $1 million mark.
Yeah, that's the dream for a lot of people.
Definitely. Well, if that's you, you're in the right place because today we're diving deep into $1 Million Weekend by Noah Kagan.
Ah, good one.
It's this guide, right, that promises to help you launch a business in just 48 hours.
48 hours, that's pretty ambitious.
It is. But think of us as your shortcut to, like, the most impactful ideas and actionable steps from the book.
I love it. Straight to the good stuff.
Definitely. And what I think is really interesting is that Kagan's approach, it's not about creating the perfect business plan.
Right, not that old school way of thinking.
Exactly. It's not about, waiting for the perfect moment either. It's much more about action.
Action over planning.
Yes. It's about taking those first steps and then, embracing the possibility of failure.
Which is tough for some people.
It is. I think a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs really get stuck in that planning phase.
Yeah, analysis paralysis.
Yeah. Afraid to actually take the leap.
I've definitely been there.
So what are some of the key takeaways, from the book that can help us shift from planning to doing?
I think one of the most powerful concepts that Kagan introduces is this idea of the N noun W, not how mindset.
Net W, not how.
Yeah.
I like that. So is it about, ditching procrastination and just getting started?
I think it's more than just avoiding procrastination.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's about focusing on immediate action over endless planning. It's about shifting your mindset from how can I do this perfectly
Makes sense.
to what can I do right now to, move this forward.
So it's about embracing imperfection and getting comfortable with the idea that, like, you'll figure things out as you go.
Exactly. And Kagan actually illustrates this mindset really beautifully with his own story.
What story is that?
Getting fired from Facebook.
He was fired from Facebook.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty surprising, right?
It is, yeah. Especially considering that he was, get this, employee number 30.
Employee number 30.
Wow, early days.
Super early.
Right.
But this experience, getting fired, it actually became kind of a turning point for him.
Okay.
He realized that even in, a high-stakes environment like Facebook, things can change, right? Unexpectedly.
Yeah, no matter who you are.
Exactly. And he learned the importance of adapting and taking ownership and then creating his own opportunities.
I can totally see how that experience would push you to adopt a, more action-oriented approach.
Oh, absolutely.
So how does this now, no, not how mindset actually play out in the real world? What does it look like?
Well, Kagan, he encourages us to overcome this fear of asking, which is often, a major roadblock for entrepreneurs.
I can definitely relate to that.
And he introduces this concept of rejection goals, which might sound kind of counterintuitive at first.
Rejection goals. So are you actually aiming for rejection?
You are.
I've never thought about it that way.
It's interesting, right? So Kagan learned this chutzpah.
Topspa. It's this Yiddish word meaning audacity or tenacity from his father, who was, a successful salesperson.
Oh, interesting.
So the idea is that by intentionally seeking out rejection, you desensitize yourself to it.
So like exposure therapy.
Kind of. You realize it's not personal.
Right.
And it's often just a part of the process, right?
I mean, I could see how that would be empowering.
Totally.
Like the more you get used to hearing no, the less power it has over you, right?
Absolutely. Does Kagan offer any, specific strategies for incorporating these rejection goals?
Yeah, how do you actually put that into practice?
He suggests setting specific targets for, rejections, almost like a game.
Like a challenge?
Yeah. So you could, aim for a certain number of no's per week.
Okay.
When you're reaching out to, potential customers, investors, partners, whatever.
So you're turning rejection into a metric for success.
It's like a way to, turn that fear into a challenge.
I like that. Do you think this approach applies to, the digital world as well?
Absolutely.
How so?
Well, you could apply it to things like, let's say, guest blogging or pitching collaborations.
Okay.
Or even just, reaching out to people on social media.
Cold outreach.
Exactly. And the beauty of the digital world is that, you can often automate some of these outreach efforts.
Right, so you can scale it up.
Yeah, making it easier to scale your rejection goals.
This is really making me rethink my approach to, networking and putting myself out there.
It's a good thing.
It is. Are there any, real-world examples of this asking mindset leading to success?
Yeah. So Kagan, he shares the story of Kyle McDonald.
Kyle McDonald.
Yeah, you know him.
Not ringing a bell.
Oh, well, he famously traded a red paperclip for a house through a series of 14 trades.
Wait, a paperclip for a house? How is that even possible?
It's wild, right?
It is.
So McDonald, he started by posting the paperclip on Craigslist, right? Offering to trade it for something better.
Okay.
And then, he continued trading up item by item, always pushing the boundaries of what was possible.
Wow. I mean, each trade required him to, like, ask and negotiate
Of course.
and overcome that potential for rejection.
You got it. So it's a powerful example of what can happen, when you embrace the "and now W, not how" mindset.
Yeah, when you don't let the fear of no hold you back.
For sure. But, I have to ask,
Yeah.
where do we even begin to find these million-dollar ideas in the first place?
Right. That's the big question.
It is. So that's where Kagan's million-dollar weekend process comes in. He breaks it down into, 3 key steps: finding ideas,
Okay.
testing them, and launching them, all within 48 hours.
All within 48 hours.
Yep.
Okay, that's a tight timeline.
It is, but the first step is to start within your zone of influence.
Zone of influence, what does that mean?
So it's about starting with problems that, you personally experience,
First-hand knowledge.
exactly, or problems that you observe, let's say, within your existing network or communities, your areas of expertise.
So things you're already familiar with.
Right. Kagan argues that we often overlook, the valuable insights and opportunities that are right in front of us.
I can see that.
Sometimes we're looking for these, really big, complex problems when there are, simpler solutions right there.
So no need to try to solve world hunger right out of the gate.
Right.
Start with something you understand and have a connection to.
Exactly. Makes it a lot easier.
It does. So how do you ensure, that these ideas actually resonate with a larger audience?
That's a good question. Well, Kagan's a big believer in the customer-first approach.
Customer first. Okay. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so it's about validating demand before investing heavily in an idea.
Makes sense.
Right. So instead of building a product and then hoping people will buy it, you start by talking to potential customers.
So getting feedback early on.
Yes. You're understanding their needs and getting feedback on your ideas before you invest too much time and energy.
That does seem like a much, much smarter approach.
Yeah, it kind of de-risks the whole process, right?
Definitely. So how do you actually put this customer-first approach into practice? What does it look like?
Well, one way is to start by, identifying the problems you personally experience, like we were saying before,
Okay.
right? Think about your daily life, your work, your hobbies, even your frustrations. What are those things that bug you?
Yeah, the little annoyances.
Exactly. Or, what are the things that you wish were easier or better or more enjoyable?
So you're essentially turning your own frustrations into potential business opportunities.
Pretty much, yeah.
I like that. What if my problems, though, aren't shared by a large enough audience?
Well, that's where, market research comes in.
Right, like making sure there's actually a market for your idea.
Exactly. So you can use, online tools, social media groups, forums.
Yeah, lots of resources available these days.
Tons. And you're looking to see what people are talking about, what questions they're asking, what solutions they're seeking.
So you're basically becoming a detective, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Gathering clues about what people actually want and need.
You got it. And you can also conduct surveys, interviews, and focus groups to gather more in-depth feedback.
So once you've got, let's say, a few promising ideas,
Right.
how do you test them to see if they're actually viable, if they can make money?
That's a good question. Well, Kagan, he uses what he calls the 1-minute business model.
1-minute business model.
Yeah.
So you're saying you can assess the viability of an idea in just 60 seconds.
Yeah, that's the idea.
That sounds almost too good to be true.
I know, right? But it's actually based on this fundamental equation: revenue cost, profit.
Okay, basic math.
Right. And the key is to break it down into simple terms.
Okay, so you're estimating your potential revenue, your cost,
Yep.
and then seeing if there's, a profit margin left over. But how do you make those estimations, though, for a brand new business idea?
Well, Kagan, he encourages us to think about these core components of any business,
Okay, like what?
What is the product or service you're selling? Who is your target customer? How will you reach them? How much will it cost to produce or deliver your product or service? And what price are customers willing to pay?
So you're essentially creating a rough sketch of your business.
Yeah.
Focusing on those key elements that really determine profitability.
Exactly. And you don't need like fancy spreadsheets or complex financial models for this initial assessment.
Okay, keep it simple.
Right. A simple piece of paper or a whiteboard will do.
Love it. Low tech.
Yeah, exactly. So the goal is to get this like quick snapshot of whether your idea, has the potential to be profitable.
Makes sense. It's about getting to the heart of the matter quickly
Totally.
and avoiding getting bogged down in details before you've even validated the core concept, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So does Kagan offer any like real-world examples of this one-minute business model in action?
He does. So he actually ran an experiment with a sumo jerky business to demonstrate this.
Sumo jerky. Okay, now I'm intrigued. Was he really trying to launch like a beef jerky business?
He was.
Okay, tell me more.
So he noticed that a lot of people were buying this like expensive, healthy jerky.
Okay, like a premium snack.
Yeah. And he thought, could I create a business out of this? But instead of like jumping straight into sourcing jerky and building a website,
Right.
he first applied this, 1-minute business model to see if it even made financial sense.
I see. Smart move. So how did he break it down?
Well, he started by identifying his target customer.
Okay.
And in this case, it was people who were willing to pay a premium for high-quality, healthy jerky.
Okay, so people who value quality over price.
Exactly. Then he estimated his costs, which included things like, the jerky itself, the packaging, shipping, and...
Or those logistical details.
Yeah. And finally, he determined a price point that he thought would be, like, both attractive to customers and profitable for him.
So he essentially created like a rough profit and loss statement in his head.
Right, exactly.
So by doing this quick calculation,
Yeah.
he was able to identify, potential challenges
Right.
and areas where he needed to adjust his approach.
Exactly. So, for example, he realized that selling individual bags of jerky online wouldn't be profitable enough because of shipping costs.
Shipping can really eat into profits, can it?
Oh, yeah, it can be a killer, especially for small businesses.
So what did he do?
Well, he pivoted to a subscription model,
Okay.
targeting offices with larger budgets.
So he found a way to increase the order size to offset those shipping costs.
Exactly. And that's a great example of how the 1-minute business model can help you, identify those potential roadblocks early on
Yeah.
and adjust your strategy accordingly.
Right. But it's still just an estimate at this point, right? I mean, how do you really know if people will actually pay that price?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
And that's why Kagan is so big on pre-selling.
Pre-selling. So you're saying he was trying to sell this sumo jerky before he even had any jerky.
He was.
How did that work?
So he went directly to his network, told them about his idea, and asked if they'd be interested in, like, buying a monthly subscription.
And people actually said yes.
They did.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing. So he was able to validate his idea and generate revenue before even investing in inventory.
It's a pretty brilliant approach, right?
It is. I mean, I'm starting to see how this approach could, de-risk the entire entrepreneurial process.
For sure.
Yeah. But what if the initial model doesn't work,
Yeah.
What if people aren't biting?
Well, Kagan's a big believer in pivoting, which is, adjusting your approach based on the feedback you receive.
Right. We talked about that with the sumo jerky example.
Exactly. So he realized that selling those individual bags wasn't going to be profitable enough.
Yeah, because of the shipping.
Right. So he pivoted to that subscription model, targeting those offices with larger budgets.
Right. So the 1-minute business model, it's not about, creating a rigid plan.
Yeah.
It's about providing a framework for testing, iterating and adapting based on that real-world feedback.
Exactly. So, are there any other ways to validate an idea before going all in?
Yeah, because pre-selling might not always be an option.
Right. So Kagan suggests a few alternative methods. You could use like online marketplaces like Craigslist or Etsy to gauge interest.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you could like list a product or service and see if anyone bites, even if you don't have it fully developed yet.
So it's like a test run.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a great way to, test the waters without making a huge investment.
Right, low risk.
Totally. And I imagine it also provides valuable feedback from potential customers, right?
For sure. Any real-world examples of that?
He mentions a story about someone who wanted to see if people would pay to, like, rent expensive cameras.
Cool.
And he listed one on Craigslist, right?
Makes sense.
And was able to rent it out for a significant amount in just a few hours.
Wow. That's a pretty convincing validation. And it probably saved him a lot of money up front.
Yeah, for sure. Any other validation methods that Kagan recommends?
Yeah, I'm curious.
He also talks about creating landing pages for pre-orders.
Landing pages, those are those like simple websites that are specifically designed to capture email addresses,
Yeah,
right?
yes, exactly. They're designed to generate leads.
Right. Very focused.
So you can drive traffic to these pages from, social media or online ads and offer something valuable in exchange for their email address.
I see. So it's like a trade.
Yeah. And Kagan calls this a lead magnet.
Lead magnet. Okay, I like that term.
Right.
So it's like offering little tastes of what you have to offer
Yep.
in exchange for the opportunity to build a relationship with them through email.
Exactly. It could be like a free ebook or a checklist or a discount code or access to, exclusive content.
Right. Something that provides value up front.
Yeah. The idea is to entice people to sign up for your email list, which you can then use to nurture those relationships.
Does eventually convert them into paying customers.
You got it.
Lead magnet. I'm going to remember that one.
Mhm.
Does Kagan provide any examples of effective lead magnets?
He does. He tells the story about someone who was building a content marketing agency.
Content marketing. That's definitely a hot topic these days.
It is, yeah. So this person, he wrote an incredibly detailed blog post about HubSpot's content marketing strategy.
The HubSpot, that's the big marketing platform, right?
The one and only. What did he do with this blog post?
Yeah, I'm curious.
He offered it as a free download in
Mhm.
exchange for an email address. You see.
Okay.
It was a valuable piece of content that appealed to his target audience, which was marketers.
Right.
And it positioned him as, an expert in his field.
So he was giving away valuable information for free.
Yeah.
But in return, he was building this list of highly qualified leads.
That's the key.
That's smart. Much more effective than just buying a list of random email addresses.
Yeah, for sure. So, we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about finding ideas, validating them, pre-selling.
Lots of good stuff.
Right. And that's just the beginning,
Hmm.
Kagan goes on to explain, how to build this growth machine.
Growth machine.
Yeah, that takes these validated ideas and turns them into a thriving business. But we'll dive into that in the next part of our deep dive.
I'm excited to learn more about that.
Mhm.
But before we move on, what are some of the key takeaways that you would want, our listener to remember from this first part of our conversation?
I think the biggest aha moment here is that shift from a founder-first mindset
Okay.
to a customer-first mindset. So instead of focusing on your product or your brilliant idea,
Okay.
you're focusing on the customer and their needs.
Put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about solving a problem that people are already experiencing
Right.
and that they're willing to pay to solve.
Right. Solve a real problem.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is, you can start validating this immediately
Right.
without spending months building a perfect product.
Yeah, that's huge.
It is. And that leads perfectly into those pre-selling techniques.
Right. Get feedback early and often.
Yep. We learned that asking and potentially getting rejected is a key skill to master, right?
Right.
It's almost like the more no's you get,
Yeah.
the closer you are to a yes.
You got to be persistent.
Exactly. It's a numbers game.
It is.
And the more you play, the better your odds.
Right. Makes sense.
But the key is to play strategically
Mhm.
using the tools and techniques that, Kagan outlines in his book.
Okay. I'm starting to see the power of Kagan's approach here. It's about action, experimentation, connecting directly with your customers, and of course, not being afraid to ask for what you want.
That's the key takeaway right there.
It is. I think we've laid a solid foundation for understanding the $1 Million Weekend philosophy.
Yeah, I think so too.
So what's next?
Well, in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore how to build on that foundation, right?
Okay.
Create a growth machine that attracts and converts customers and ultimately design a life of freedom and fulfillment through entrepreneurship.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it. All right. So we've talked about, finding those $1 million ideas,
Right.
validating them. But what about getting the word out?
Yeah, marketing.
Yeah. How do you actually build an audience for your amazing product or service?
Well, this is where Kagan's concept of the growth machine comes in.
Growth machine. Okay.
Yeah, he breaks it down into a few key components, building an audience, leveraging social media, making money with email marketing.
Okay. So it sounds like he's got a pretty systematic approach to growing a business.
Yeah.
Which part do you think is the most crucial in those, early stages?
Kagan actually emphasizes that social media is great for growth, but email is where you'll ultimately see those profits roll in.
Oh, interesting.
She sees them working together, kind of like a 1-2 punch.
Okay, so you're using social media to attract people.
Yep.
And then email to nurture those relationships and eventually turn them into, paying customers.
Exactly. What are some of the key differences between those two channels?
Yeah, I'm curious.
Well, social media is all about visibility.
Okay.
It's where you can reach a large audience, build brand awareness, spark conversations.
Okay, big picture stuff.
Yeah, and email, on the other hand, it's more personal.
Right.
It
One-to-one.
allows you to, connect with your audience on a deeper level, build trust, and share valuable content that helps you establish yourself as, an expert.
I see what you mean. Social media is like that megaphone, while email is more of an intimate conversation.
That's a good analogy.
So how do you actually go about building an audience on social media? Like, what kind of content works best?
Kagan is a big believer in building in public.
Building in public. Okay, tell me more.
So it's about, being transparent, sharing your journey,
Okay.
the highs, the lows, the lessons learned.
Showing the behind the scenes.
Exactly, and inviting people to be a part of it.
I feel like authenticity is key here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
People can spot a fake from a mile away.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They want to connect with real people, not like some polished corporate facade.
Totally. And Kagan actually credits his own success to this building in public approach.
Really? How so?
Well, he shares a story of how he landed a job at Mint, the personal finance software company,
Yeah, I've heard of them.
by blogging openly about his job search process.
So he was like documenting his journey,
Yep.
his successes, his failures, and it caught the attention of the right people.
Exactly. It's a great example of how transparency can lead to those unexpected opportunities.
Right place, right time.
Yeah. And Kagan suggests crafting what he calls a unique angle pitch to
Okay.
help you, stand out in the crowded online world. It's about, defining what you offer, why people should listen to you, what you're passionate about, how you can help them.
Okay, so kind of like an elevator pitch,
Yeah,
but for your online presence.
exactly. A way to quickly communicate, what you're all about.
Love it. So it's about finding your voice, your niche, and the way you connect with your audience.
Yeah. Absolutely. And once you've got that unique angle figured out, it's time to start creating content that, resonates with your ideal audience.
Okay, so how do you actually do that?
Kagan calls this the content circle framework.
Content circle framework. Interesting. What's the idea behind that?
He suggests thinking of your content in terms of 3 concentric circles: core, medium, and large.
Okay, so I'm picturing a bullseye target here.
Yeah.
So the core circle is your most specific content, the stuff that really hits the bullseye for your niche audience.
Exactly. This content is aimed at your most passionate fans. The
Okay.
people who are already deeply engaged with your topic or industry. Think of it as, the content that solves a very specific problem for a very specific group of people.
I see. Okay, so what about the medium and large circles?
Yeah, so the medium circle, it broadens your scope a bit.
Okay.
It covers topics that are still relevant to your niche, but appeal to a wider audience.
Okay, branching out a bit.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
large circle expands even further, exploring themes and ideas that connect with your niche in a more general way.
So you're essentially building layers of content that cater to different levels of interest and awareness.
Exactly. Do you have any examples of how this content circle framework plays out in the real world?
Yeah, I'd love to hear a real-world example.
Well, Kagan uses Ali Abdaal as an example. He's a YouTuber who creates videos about productivity, study skills, personal development.
Oh, yeah, I've seen his videos. He's got a huge following.
Yeah.
How does he fit into this framework?
So Abdaal actually started by creating content aimed at a very specific audience: students preparing for the British medical school entrance exam.
Okay, very specific.
His core circle content was hyper-focused on that exam, offering tips, strategies, resources.
So he was solving a very specific problem for a very specific audience.
Exactly. And then, as his audience grew, he expanded his content to appeal to a wider range of people.
Okay, so his content evolved with his audience.
Right. His medium circle content broadened to cover topics like, study skills and productivity, which appeal to a wider range of students.
Makes sense.
And then his large circle content covers even broader themes like personal development, entrepreneurship.
Right, more general interest topics.
Exactly, which appeal to an even larger audience.
That's a smart strategy.
Hmm.
He's building layers of content that draw people in.
Yeah.
And then gradually introduce them to new ideas and topics.
Exactly. Does Kagan give any other examples of people who have used this framework successfully?
Yeah, curious.
He talks about Dustin Wunderlich, who runs a YouTube channel called Dustin's Fish Tanks.
Fish tanks, you mean like aquariums?
Exactly. He started by creating videos about, fish tanks, a very niche topic, but gradually expanded to cover all things fish and aquariums.
Wow, so you can build $1 million business around fish tanks.
Apparently.
Yeah.
It shows you the power of starting with a passionate core audience and then gradually expanding your reach.
It's amazing what people are passionate about.
It is. And remember, no matter how great your content is, you need to be strategic about how you promote it.
Right, you can't just create content and hope people find it.
No, you got to get it in front of the right people.
So how do you go about promoting your content effectively?
Well, Kagan emphasizes the importance of understanding your audience and the platforms they frequent.
Makes sense.
He encourages you to choose the social media platforms that best align with your content and target audience.
Okay, so like YouTube for video creators,
Yeah.
Instagram for like photographers and visual artists, LinkedIn for professionals, Twitter for thought leaders,
Exactly. It's about finding where your audience hangs out and
Yeah.
creating content that's tailored to that platform.
Right, the right message for the right audience.
And once you've got your content strategy figured out, you need to start building that all-important email list.
Right, we talked about that earlier. Email is like the real moneymaker.
Yeah.
But how do you go from, building a social media audience to creating a profitable email list?
Yeah. Well, Kagan dedicates a whole chapter to this.
Really?
Yeah, emphasizing that email is your ATM.
Love that analogy.
It's where you build those relationships, share valuable content, and ultimately, make those sales. He even shares a story about how he initially resisted email marketing,
Really?
but then had a major aha moment thanks to his friend Neville Matora.
Neville.
Who's Neville?
So Neville's like this email marketing guru.
Okay, so what happened? Did Neville, convince him to change his mind?
He did. So Kagan was running AppSumo, and they were sending out these very straightforward, sales-focused emails.
Okay, pretty typical.
Right. And Neville convinced him to try a more personal, story-driven approach.
Okay, so instead of just blasting out promotional emails, they started, telling stories,
Yep.
sharing personal experiences, building relationships through email.
Exactly. And the results were, astounding. Their profits increased dramatically.
Wow, that's a
Awesome.
powerful testament to the power of storytelling. It is, yeah. I think a lot of people get turned off by those, generic, impersonal marketing emails.
For sure.
We want to feel like we're connecting with a real human being,
Right.
not a faceless corporation.
Exactly. What are some of the key elements of this, more personal approach to email marketing?
Well, Kagan emphasizes the importance of authenticity
Okay.
and writing in a conversational tone. It's about, being yourself.
Right. Let your personality shine through.
Exactly, sharing your personality and letting your unique voice shine through. He encourages us to write emails that, sound like we're talking to a friend.
Right. Not a potential customer.
Yeah. So ditch the corporate jargon and, write like you speak.
Got it. Are there any specific tips for writing, like engaging emails that people will actually want to read?
Yeah, Kagan talks about the importance of, capturing attention from that very first line.
That's crucial.
He shares an example of an email that Neville wrote for AppSumo that started with a really bold, humorous line.
Oh, I like that.
Something like, if you get excited when you hear the word Garamond, you might be interested in this.
Okay. That's definitely memorable.
It's a little bit edgy, too.
It is
I can see how that would, cut through the clutter of a typical inbox.
It's about making people laugh, making them curious, making them want to read more.
Exactly. The point is to be creative, to stand out, and to, create a connection with your reader.
Okay, I'm starting to see the light here.
Good.
But how do we actually go about building an email list in the first place? Where do we send people to sign up?
Well, Kagan recommends creating a landing page.
Okay.
A simple web page designed specifically to, capture email addresses. You can drive traffic to this page from your social media platforms, your website, or even online ads.
Okay, so you're essentially funneling people from those other channels to this central hub.
Yep.
Where you can collect their email addresses and start building a relationship with them.
Exactly. And what kind of information do you typically ask for on these landing pages?
Yeah, I'm curious.
You want to keep it simple, Name and email address are usually enough.
Okay, don't ask for too much.
Right. But the key is to offer something valuable in exchange for, their contact information.
Right, give them a reason to sign up.
Yeah, Kagan calls this a lead magnet.
Right, we talked about that.
It could be a free ebook or a checklist or a discount code or even just, access to exclusive content.
Lead magnet, I love that term.
Hmm.
It's about giving people like a little something extra, something that demonstrates your value,
Yes,
your expertise, in exchange for the opportunity to like connect with them.
exactly. Does Kagan give any examples of, effective lead magnets?
Yeah, I'm curious.
Well, he talks about a content marketing consultant who created like a really in-depth guide about HubSpot's content marketing strategy.
Content marketing, hot topic. I can see why that would be valuable to a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. So what did he do with this guide?
Yeah.
He offered it as a free download in exchange for an email address.
Okay. Makes sense.
So, it was a really valuable resource that appealed to his target audience marketers.
Right. These are specifically marketer.
And it helped him build a list of like highly qualified leads.
So he was giving away something really valuable for free,
He was.
but in return, he was building this list of people who were, genuinely interested in what he had to offer.
Exactly. It's about attracting the right people.
Right. Not just anyone.
Yeah, the people who are actually interested in what you have to say and who are like more likely to become paying customers down the road.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we have.
Building a growth machine involves attracting an audience on social media, converting them into email subscribers, and then nurturing those relationships through, like, email marketing.
That's the gist of it.
What's the next step? How do we actually make sure this machine keeps, running smoothly?
Well, first of all, you need to create a system for like consistently creating and delivering valuable content.
Okay, so content is king.
Yeah, pretty much. And Kagan emphasizes the importance of finding your content rhythm.
Content rhythm.
Yeah, the frequency and format that works best for you and your audience.
So it's not about forcing yourself to, like, churn out content every single day.
No, not at all.
If that doesn't feel sustainable.
Right. It's about finding a pace that allows you to create, high quality content consistently.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about being adaptable and, finding your unique voice in this content landscape. But creating content is only, like, part of the equation.
Right.
How do you assure people are actually seeing it?
Yeah, and engaging with it.
Right.
Well, that's where content promotion comes in.
Okay. How do you do that?
So Kagan emphasizes the importance of, leveraging multiple channels to get your content in front of the right people.
So not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Right. So this could include, social media sharing, guest blogging, email marketing, even paid
So
advertising.
you're essentially creating a distribution strategy for your content, right?
Exactly. You're not just hoping it goes viral organically.
Right.
We're actively pushing it out to your target audience.
And the beauty of digital marketing is that you can track your results, right?
Oh, absolutely.
See what's working, what's not.
Yep. You can use tools like Google Analytics to see how people are finding your content, how long they're staying on your website, what actions they're taking.
Yeah. That data is so valuable.
It is. It allows you to make, informed decisions about your content strategy.
Yeah.
And adjust your approach as needed.
I imagine all of this can feel a bit overwhelming, though, especially for someone who's, like, just starting out.
Oh, for sure.
Where do you even begin?
Well, Kagan emphasizes the importance of starting small
Okay, keep it simple.
and focusing on like one or two key channels at a time.
Don't try to do too much at once.
Right. It's better to master one platform
Right.
than to spread yourself thin across multiple platforms and not make a real impact on any of them.
I think that's a mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make. Trying to do too much too soon.
Yeah, it's easy to get overwhelmed.
It is. It's better to focus your energy and resources on the channels that are most likely to yield results.
Absolutely. And once you've got a handle on those channels, you can gradually expand your reach,
Okay.
experiment with new platforms and tactics.
So it's like a phased approach.
Yeah. But the key is to have, a clear strategy and a system in place to make sure your growth machine is running smoothly.
Okay, so we've got our content strategy dial in, our email list is growing, our social media presence is expanding. So what's next? How do we actually turn all of this activity into, revenue?
Well, that's where Kagan's concept of the experiment-based marketing approach comes in.
Experiment-based marketing. Okay, tell me more.
So it's about systematically testing different marketing tactics
Okay.
to see what yields the best results for your business. He encourages us to adopt a data-driven approach.
Right, let the numbers guide you.
Yeah, exactly. Using metrics to track our progress and make informed decisions about our marketing strategy.
So it's not about, blindly following the latest marketing trends.
No, not at all.
It's about finding what works best for your specific business and target audience.
You got it. And he shares a story about Daniel Bliss who was a climber who wanted to turn his passion into a business.
A climber turned entrepreneur. Okay, I'm
Okay.
curious.
So Daniel, he had this idea for creating belay glasses.
The lay glasses, okay.
They're these special glasses that allow climbers to look up without straining their necks.
Oh, interesting. Like ergonomics for climbers?
Yeah, exactly. He had validated the idea by, like, selling a few pairs to friends and fellow climbers.
Okay, proof of concept.
Right. But he was struggling to, like, scale beyond that initial network.
So it sounds like he hit that classic entrepreneur's dilemma, right?
It is, yeah.
You've got a great product, but you're not sure how to reach a wider audience.
That's it. So how did this experiment-based marketing approach help him overcome that challenge?
Yeah, I'm curious.
Kagan encouraged Daniel to create a list of potential marketing strategies,
Okay.
each with, like, an estimated number of sales he thought it could generate. Then Daniel systematically tested each strategy, tracking the actual results against, his initial projections.
So it's like a scientific experiment.
Kind of.
You're formulating a hypothesis, testing it, and then analyze the data to see if your assumptions were correct.
That's a great way to put it.
It takes a lot of the guesswork out of marketing, right?
It does, yeah. And the key takeaway for Daniel was that, like, some strategies worked incredibly well, while others were complete duds.
So that data was invaluable for figuring out where to focus his efforts.
It was. He discovered that, like, wholesaling to climbing gyms was far more effective than trying to sell individual pairs online.
Oh, interesting. So he shifted his strategy based on what the data was telling him.
Yeah, he doubled down on that strategy, which ultimately helped him, reach his goal of quitting his day job
Wow.
and pursuing his passion full time.
That's amazing.
It is. It shows that with the right approach, you can turn even, like, a niche hobby into a thriving business.
It's really inspiring, honestly. But how long did this, experimentation process take? And how many strategies did Daniel actually test?
That's where Kagan's Law of 100 comes in.
Law of 100. Okay, got to know what that's about.
So it means committing to 100 attempts for each marketing experiment.
100 attempts. That's a lot.
It is, yeah. So whether that's sending 100 cold emails, making 100 sales calls, or running 100 ads.
Wow.
The idea is to, like, push through that initial resistance and give each strategy a fair shot.
Okay, so 100 attempts. What's the reason behind that number?
Kagan argues that, most people give up too early
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
before they've truly given a strategy a chance to work.
Makes sense.
So he believes that by, committing to 100 attempts, you increase your chances of finding those breakthrough strategies that can really move the needle for your business.
So it's about pushing through that dip, that period of uncertainty and frustration.
Ex-
That inevitably comes when you're trying something new.
It's easy to give up after a few setbacks,
Oh, yeah, I can definitely relate to that.
But if you stick with it, you might discover something that really works.
Right, you got to be persistent.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that not every experiment will be a success.
Yeah, failure is part of the process.
It is. But the key is to learn from each experiment, gather data, and use that information to inform your next move.
So it's about embracing failure as a learning opportunity,
Exactly.
not a reason to quit.
Right. But I still have to ask, like, how do you choose which strategies to test in the first place?
Yeah, because there's so many options out there.
Okay.
It can feel overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, Kagan, he suggests starting by identifying your unfair advantage.
Unfair advantage. Okay, what's that?
It's the thing that sets you apart from your competition
Okay.
and gives you, like, a unique edge in the marketplace.
Right, your secret weapon.
Exactly. He encourages us to ask ourselves, what do you enjoy doing? What are you naturally good at? What do you know that most people don't?
Unfair advantage. I like that.
Yeah.
It's about finding that sweet spot where your skills,
Yeah.
your passions, and market opportunities align.
Totally. And once you've identified your unfair advantage, you can, like, brainstorm marketing strategies that leverage that advantage.
Okay, so play to your strengths. Right?
Exactly. For example, if you're a gifted storyteller, you might focus on creating, like, video content or hosting live events.
Okay, yeah.
If you're a data whiz, you might experiment with paid advertising or email marketing automation.
Right, so you're essentially playing to your strengths and focusing on the activities that are most likely to yield results.
Yeah. I'm starting to see how this experiment-based marketing approach can bring a lot of clarity and focus to, like, your marketing efforts.
Definitely. But I have to admit, even with all of these strategies in place, I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, consistency and staying motivated over the long haul.
Yeah, it's not easy.
How do you stay on track when you inevitably hit those bumps in the road?
That's where Kagan emphasizes the importance of, building a support system.
Focus system, okay.
Yeah, surrounding yourself with people who understand your journey.
Right, people who get it.
Yeah, who encourage you and hold you accountable.
I think accountability partners can be so
Oh,
valuable.
they're crucial.
Just having someone to check in with can make a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. But where do you find these people?
That's the question.
Especially if you're just starting out and don't have a big network yet.
Right, it can feel lonely.
Yeah. Kagan introduces this concept of prefluencers.
Freefluencers, okay. Remind me what that term means again.
So they're basically rising stars in your field, people who are doing impressive work,
Yeah.
but haven't yet achieved massive fame or influence.
So they're still accessible, right?
Exactly.
Okay. And what's the idea behind connecting with these prefluencers?
Kagan argues that these prefluencers are often more generous with their time and advice.
Okay. Because they're still building their own networks.
They're still hungry.
Yeah, exactly. And by connecting with them early on, you can establish these valuable relationships that can benefit you both in the long run.
That's a brilliant strategy. I'm definitely going to start looking for some prefluencers in my field.
It's a good idea.
But how do you actually go about connecting with them? Do you, slide into their DMs on social media?
Kagan suggests a more strategic approach.
Okay.
He recommends finding ways to add value to their work before reaching out.
Okay, so be helpful before you ask for help.
Yeah. This could include sharing their content, leaving thoughtful comments, or even offering to help them with a project.
So you're essentially building a relationship before you ask for anything in return.
Exactly. It's about being genuine, being helpful, and demonstrating that you're, a valuable connection.
Makes sense. And what about leveraging your existing network?
Kagan recommends using referrals to expand your network.
Referrals are powerful. They are. So he shares the story of someone who moved to Silicon Valley and wanted to connect with the top players in the tech industry.
Silicon Valley, that's a tough crowd.
It is, yeah. So how did this person manage to break in?
Yeah.
He set a goal of meeting 5 new people every day.
Wow, that's ambitious.
It is. And he systematically asked for referrals, leveraging his existing connections to introduce him to new people.
So he was essentially turning his network into a referral engine.
Pretty much, yeah. It's a powerful strategy.
Yeah.
But it requires you to be proactive and intentional about building those relationships.
Right. Networking is a verb.
It is, yeah. And it requires you to nurture those relationships over time.
Yeah, it's not a one-time thing.
No. Networking isn't just about collecting business cards.
Right.
It's about building genuine connections with people who can support you on your journey.
And support them in return, right?
Absolutely. Networking should be a two-way street.
It should.
It's about mutual support and shared success.
Love that. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive.
We have.
Building an audience, leveraging social media, mastering email marketing, creating a growth machine that attracts and converts customers.
Yeah. What are some of the key takeaways you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Yeah, it's a lot to digest.
It is. I think the biggest aha moment here is the power of experimentation.
Experimentation.
It's about embracing a data-driven approach to marketing.
Right. Test and measure.
Exactly. Testing different strategies and letting the results guide your decisions.
So it's about ditching the guesswork and embracing a more scientific approach to marketing.
You got it. But it's also important to remember that marketing isn't just about numbers.
Right. The human element is crucial.
Yeah. It's about connecting with people, telling stories, building relationships.
Absolutely. And it's about finding your unique voice, your unfair advantage, and leveraging those strengths to create a business that is both profitable and fulfilling.
That's what it's all about.
Okay. I think we're ready for the final part of our deep dive.
I think so too.
I'm curious to explore how Kagan ties all of these ideas together and ultimately helps us, design a life of freedom and fulfillment through entrepreneurship.
That's the big question, right?
We've talked about finding those million-dollar ideas and building a growth machine and mastering, those marketing strategies.
Right, the nuts and bolts.
But what's the point of all this if you're not, enjoying the ride?
I think that's such a crucial point, right? It's so easy to get caught up in the hustle of building a business and forget, about the bigger picture.
Right. Why are we even doing this?
Yeah, why you started this journey in the first place.
Right. What's the point of achieving financial success if you're burnt out and stressed and sacrificing, your well-being in the process.
Right. It's not worth it.
It's not. So I'm really interested to hear how Kagan addresses this idea of, personal fulfillment within, like, the entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, so he dedicates the final part of his book to this, acknowledging that achieving financial success doesn't automatically guarantee happiness.
Right. Money can't buy happiness.
Exactly. And in fact, he shares his own experience of feeling like lost and unfulfilled even after AppSumo had achieved significant success.
So even when you've, like, made it,
Mm.
there can still be this feeling that something's missing.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people can relate to that, even outside of the entrepreneurial world.
Yeah, for sure. It's like that existential crisis.
It is, yeah. So he encourages us to shift our perspective from solely focusing on, business growth to designing a life that genuinely aligns with our values and aspirations.
Okay, so taking a step back and looking at the big picture.
Yeah. It's about defining what success actually means to you,
Right. Your own definition.
not just chasing, some external metric or societal expectation.
Right. We all have our own unique definition of success.
You do. So how does Kagan suggest we, go about defining our own version of success?
Yeah, that's a big question.
It is. So he introduces this exercise called the dream year.
Dream year.
Yeah, where you envision your, ideal year in detail.
Okay, like a vision board, but for an entire year.
Yeah, kind of. So, think about all aspects of your life. Health, relationships, work, hobbies, travel, personal growth,
The whole picture.
the whole picture. What would a truly fulfilling year look like for you?
That's a good question. I'm picturing my dream year right now, and it involves, lots of travel, time with loved ones, a business that fuels my passions, and plenty of opportunities for, like, creativity and learning.
Sounds amazing.
It does. But, how do you translate these dreams into reality? It's so easy to get, like, lost in that day-to-day grind
Wow, for sure.
and lose sight of those, like, bigger aspirations.
It is. So Kagan suggests breaking down your, dream year vision into smaller, actionable goals.
Could chunk it down?
Exactly. And then, he encourages you to actually schedule those goals into your calendar, treating them with the same level of importance as, your business appointments.
So you're making those personal goals non-negotiable.
Right.
Right. You're not letting them get squeezed out by the demands of your business.
Absolutely. It's about, taking control of your time and prioritizing the things that truly matter to you.
I love that idea. It's so easy to let, like, the urgent things take over.
It is. He also suggests, finding an accountability partner.
Right. Someone to keep you on track.
Exactly. Someone
Yeah.
who can, support you, encourage you, and help you stay on track with your goals.
I mean, accountability partners can be so valuable.
They are.
Just having someone to check in with can, like, make a huge difference.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But finding the right accountability partner, that can be tricky.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Do you have any advice on, how to go about finding someone who's a good fit?
Yeah. What should you look for?
Well, Kagan suggests looking for someone who shares, similar values and goals. Someone who's also on a journey of personal growth and self-discovery.
So someone who understands your journey.
Exactly. And it's important to find someone who's, supportive, but also willing to challenge you.
Yeah, push you a little bit.
Exactly. And hold you accountable for your actions.
So it's about finding that balance between, like, support and challenge.
Right.
Someone who believes in you, but also, pushes you to be your best self.
Totally. And I think that's a key element of any successful relationship, right? Whether it's personal or professional.
Yeah, totally agree. And speaking of relationships, Kagan emphasizes the importance of building a strong network of people who can support you on your entrepreneurial journey.
Right. Community over competition.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in the power of networks.
Me too. But building a strong network can be challenging.
Yeah, it can be intimidating.
Especially if you're just starting out or, if you're naturally introverted.
Yeah, where do you even start?
Well, he introduces this concept of prefluencers.
Right, those rising stars.
Exactly. They're basically, rising stars in your field, people who are doing impressive work but haven't yet achieved, massive fame or influence.
So you're connecting with them early on,
Abs-
before they become too busy or inaccessible.
Yeah, you're getting in on the ground floor.
Right. It's about, like, building relationships with people who are on a similar trajectory as you. How do you go about finding these prefluencers?
Well, Kagan suggests being, like an active participant in your industry or niche.
Okay, so get out there and network.
Exactly. Attend conferences, workshops, online events,
Yeah.
follow thought leaders on social media, engage with their content.
So it's about like immersing yourself in the world you want to be a part of.
Exactly. And once you've identified, some potential pre-fluencers,
Right.
how do you actually approach them and build a relationship?
Yeah, that's the tricky part.
Well, Kagan recommends finding ways to add value to their work before reaching out.
So be helpful before you ask for help.
Exactly. This could include sharing their content on social media, leaving thoughtful comments on their blog posts.
Right. Show that you're paying attention.
Exactly. Or even offering to help them with a project.
Okay, so you're demonstrating your value.
Yep.
Building goodwill before you ask for anything in return.
Right. It's about establishing a genuine connection.
Right, not just trying to get something from them.
Exactly. And once you've established that connection, you can gradually nurture the relationship
Okay,
and
yeah.
explore opportunities for collaboration or mentorship or, even just mutual support and encouragement.
So it's about building like a community of like-minded individuals who are all, striving to achieve their goals and support each other along the way.
Right. It's about collaboration.
Yeah. So that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Million Dollar Weekend. What are your final thoughts on the book and its key takeaways for our listeners?
I think Kagan's biggest contribution is shifting our mindset from dreaming about entrepreneurship to actually doing it.
Right, action over planning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He provides, a practical framework, actionable strategies, and inspiring stories.
Yeah, he's got the receipts.
Yeah, he does. That empower us to take those first steps and embrace the unknown and create, a business and a life that we truly love.
That's the goal, right?
It is. And I completely agree. He doesn't just focus on building a successful business.
Right.
He emphasizes the importance of designing a life
Yeah.
that aligns with our values and aspirations.
Living a life you love.
He reminds us that entrepreneurship isn't just about making money.
Right, it's more than that.
It's about creating something meaningful, contributing to the world, and, living a life of freedom and fulfillment.
Yeah, it's about finding your purpose and pursuing it with passion.
Yeah.
I think the most important question, though, that Kagan leaves us with is this. What are you going to create?
That's a great question.
Yeah, it is. What impact do you want to make on the world? What legacy do you want to leave behind? And I really hope this deep dive, has sparked some ideas, inspired you to take action, and given you the tools and confidence to pursue, your entrepreneurial dreams. Thanks for joining us on this journey.
It's been great.
It has. So until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep creating. The world needs your unique ideas and contributions.
Absolutely.